Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Clev Mesador. I lead the National Policy Network of Women of Color in Blockchain. Thank you for joining us to commemorate Small Business Week. I'm glad that we get to have this event on Cinco de Mayo. Stay tuned for a little social after our program. I want to extend a special thank you to our sponsors, the Blockchain Association, Ripple, Coinlist. We appreciate their support. I'm excited about today's sessions. I hope you are too. Our special guests include members of Congress from the Senate Small Business Committee, the House Small Business Committee, the House Financial Services Committee Task Force on Financial Technology, and the Congressional Blockchain Caucus. A representative from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce will also weigh in. And you will hear from a diverse group of creators, entrepreneurs, small business owners who are leveraging digital assets to optimize their business. Now, I know we have a mixed audience, so I want to provide a bit of context. Digital assets are anything with ownership or use rights which are issued or transferred using digital technology infrastructure, such as blockchain, rather than in physical form. The digitization of assets is transforming how goods and services are offered, bought, and how value is transferred. Many of you have heard about a few digital assets, NFTs, crypto art, creator tokens. Get ready for examples of practical applications. Now we want you to join the conversation, so please use hashtag Small Business Week on social media. Our first speaker is Kristen Smith, who is overseeing the development of a strategic roadmap for public policy as Executive Director of the Blockchain Association. The association represents 40 blockchain companies and is focused on advancing a federal regulatory framework that fosters innovation right here in America. Enjoy the program.
Happy Cinco de Mayo. I'm Kristen Smith, Executive Director of the Blockchain Association. We are thrilled to have you join us to commemorate National Small Business Week. I realize most people do not associate blockchain with small business, but the crypto industry is comprised of entrepreneurs and startup founders who are building innovative micro enterprises that are part of America's thriving business landscape. Digital assets and blockchain are transforming the nation's economy. The impact of creative industries, which employs millions of workers and generates over $1 trillion in sales annually, has been very positive. Blockchain companies are creating products to help creators innovate and generate new streams of revenue. The Blockchain Association is excited to have two of our member companies join us as sponsors of today's event. CoinList recently helped launch a protocol called Rally that enables creators to grow their audience, reward fans, and build their own digital economies powered by blockchain technology and their own self-branded crypto token. You will hear from one of the creators leveraging this new product. Additionally, you will also learn about Ripple's payment services and the unique experience they provide for small businesses. They are building a more inclusive financial system where more entrepreneurs and SMEs have access to better financial services. As you can see, we have a great program in store. To kick off the program, I'm thrilled to announce Congressman Tom Emmer, who co-chairs the Congressional Blockchain Caucus and serves as its ranking member of the House Financial Services Committee FinTech Task Force. Thank you for joining us, Congressman Emmer.
Good morning. Thank you to the National Policy Network of Women of Color in Blockchain for hosting this event and inviting me to join you today. My name is Congressman Tom Emmer, and I represent Minnesota's 6th Congressional District in Congress. I also serve as the co-chair of the Congressional Blockchain Caucus, and I sit on the House Financial Services Committee, in which I work on a range of policy issues aimed at increasing financial inclusion and awareness through the revolutionary development in financial technology. As an emerging industry, blockchain has the potential to transform a host of industries by increasing trust, transparency, and security, while delivering efficiency and cost savings to consumers. However, for the blockchain space to be more inclusive and always on the cutting edge, we must remove hurdles that keep new innovators out of this incredible industry. As is often the case in so many sectors of our economy, regulatory uncertainty remains a significant barrier to entry for many blockchain innovators. Burdensome and inconsistent regulation remains a major issue that disproportionately impacts small businesses and startups that have limited capital to manage growing compliance costs. Innovators should not have to hire a team of lawyers to decipher their industry's regulations, and they shouldn't pay the price for an unclear regulatory framework created by their government. Legislators and regulators need to improve their understanding of this technology and provide clear and concise guidance in order to keep the industry open to every innovator, whether they're from a large company or a small business that's just starting out. This Congress, our work with the Blockchain Caucus and on the Financial Services Committee will be focused on providing a more straightforward regulatory environment. This is so we can foster more innovation in this amazing space. One such effort is the reintroduction of our Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act. This proposed legislation affirms that blockchain developers and service providers who never take custody of consumer funds, like miners and multi-signature service providers, do not have to register as money transmitters in each and every state. While this guidance is practiced by FinCEN, having legislation like the Blockchain Regulatory Certainty Act is now more important than ever, as the Financial Action Task Force, an international standard-setting body, is considering rules which would make it difficult for non-custodial entities to innovate. Another item we're working on is the Securities Clarity Act, which provides straightforward regulations for digital assets by clarifying that a digital token is separate from the securities offering that it was a part of. This will allow companies to distribute their tokens without fear of retroactive enforcement actions, while the rules of the road regarding tokens continue to be developed. Lastly, and something I know all of you as entrepreneurs are acutely aware of, a continued lack of guidance from the Internal Revenue Service has left many in the blockchain industry struggling to operate, opting to move overseas in some cases to work in more defined tax environments. To remedy this, we're planning to reintroduce our safe harbor for taxpayers with Forked Assets Act, which prohibits penalties against taxpayers until the IRS issues updated and detailed guidance on how to report gains or losses in forked digital assets. A clear understanding of the regulatory and tax environment is important in any industry. When you're constantly pushing the envelope of innovation, this understanding becomes critical to expanding opportunity and keeping entrepreneurs like you competitive on the global stage. As a legislator, you have my commitment to continue working with my colleagues and regulators alike to ensure the blockchain industry remains accessible and that the federal tax and regulatory framework does not box out newcomers or more innovation. It's not a matter of if, but when blockchain technology becomes part of daily life for every American. As the industry grows, I look forward to working with all of you to develop solutions that encourage entrepreneurship in this promising space. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak with all of you today, and thank you for everything you're doing to advance the next breakthrough in fintech and innovation.
Thank you, Congressman Emmer. I'm excited about our first panel. We're going to discuss how blockchain companies are empowering creators and micro enterprises with digital assets. I'm joined by two very dynamic industry leaders. Michelle Fang is lead engineer and crypto enthusiast at CoinList, with a varied background and previous work at USC Institute for Creative Technologies, Cisco, Google, and AngelList. Michelle continues to launch new products that empower people with technology. Now, Jeremiah Aoyang is tech analyst at Kaleido Insights and advisor to Rally.io. He is a self-described disruptive tech and corporate innovation analyst. He identifies trends and advises major companies to adapt their business models to better connect with consumers. Now, before we dive into our conversation, I'm sure our audience is wondering how each of you landed in the blockchain space. So let's start with your story. Michelle, we'll start with you.
Okay, yeah. So my first real interaction with blockchain technology is in 2015 when like Bitcoin are starting to become kind of a thing. Just for fun, I bought like a Bitcoin miner and also like a USB fan and plug it into my desktop trying to mine some Bitcoin. Of course, that didn't really go anywhere, but it was kind of a fun exercise. And that's like my first introduction to crypto. And then fast forward to 2016 when I joined AngelList, which is a platform for like early stage tech startups. A lot of people there are like crypto enthusiasts. So I started to learn a lot about it. And then I started to get very fascinated by the idea of a decentralized, open, and borderless network where everyone can contribute and get rewarded and participate in governance. So then in 2018, when the opportunity comes for me to join this new company called CoinList, I'm just like very thrilled and excited to be part of the scene. And also as I dig deeper, I started to realize like how empowering blockchain can be. I sometimes like to think about it like interchangeable parts, which is the tech that defined manufacturing in 20th century, right? So like interchangeable parts, blockchain is the building block of a lot of the upcoming tech. But also the difference is that the barrier of entry is very low. You don't need a lot of money to set up a production chain or something, which I think is extremely empowering for like small businesses and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to see how it can do in the future.
Wow, very powerful story. Jeremiah, tell us about how you got into this space.
Sure. Well, I'm a little bit newer to blockchain, and I was waiting for it to be really useful for the everyday creator and user. I've been an analyst covering social media for over 10 years. And then in October of 2020, I saw that my friend Kevin Chu of Rally.io had kind of cracked the code where social media creators could now use blockchain to create their own personal cryptos. And I said, Kevin, let's reconnect again. I think we can make these two markets come together. And I was waiting for an easy to use tool, and this was something that was there. So I have owned some Bitcoin from prior years, but I really wasn't, quote, using it in any particular way. And now it's becoming a functional part of my business as well as other small businesses and micro entrepreneurs. So exciting times ahead.
Yes, well, thank you for that, Jeremiah, because you transitioned us into what exactly is CoinList, Michelle, and how does it work with Rally?
So CoinList, in summary, is a trusted platform for launching new crypto projects. So like a lot of like other exchanges, we offer like trading, lending, staking for like the major tokens, but also like our main focus is to help the up and coming crypto projects and entrepreneurs to grow and succeed while providing our users with access to the most cutting edge opportunities in crypto. So some of the examples that we do is like we have like hackathons called CoinList Build, where like we onboard like 2,500 developers to build projects on top of like live protocols. And then we also have like CoinList Seed, which is like a virtual demo day for early stage crypto entrepreneurs to connect with global community on CoinList. And then like some of the projects we work with that's are more related to like creative space includes like Flow, which very focused on usability and like make developing games and apps very easy. And it is like kind of onboard like millions of mainstream users into the crypto system. And also Rally, which we work with this year, that we introduced more than 40,000 participants to their project. That allows digital creators, influencers, and artists to launch independent economies and enables a sustainable form of revenue and engagement with their fans. So like these are like all very interesting projects that I'm very excited to work with. And I also kind of like check them out from time to time and be like, oh, this is really cool. Maybe I should also start a creator coin or something, but I haven't got there yet.
Sounds like I want to create one. Jeremiah, you're a creator, right? And you're an advisor to Rally, right? What does that entail? What is a creator today and how do you work with them? And certainly, how do you ensure that they're tapping the resources that Rally offers?
Yes, I am an online creator. I create my own content. I write a blog. I have social media accounts, but I'm not alone. There's apparently 50 million online creators today. In fact, in some surveys and research, they found that the number one career that today's youth, they want to be creators, not Hollywood stars or professional athletes. They want to create content on some of these online platforms. These are the heroes they look up to in Twitch and YouTube and TikTok and belong. I know it may seem odd to certain generations, but we all have different idols and fans in different generations. And now it's on social media. It seems interesting, like thinking 20 years ago when I spotted this social media trend, it was very difficult to tell individuals and companies that they would all be their own media brands and platforms. And now every single company, corporation, and most individuals have this plethora of technology where they can publish their thoughts, ideas, and lives around them. But the one challenge that we've all had was the inability to monetize. We're either felt that we were tied or dependent upon one of these social media platforms for monetization, or if we wanted to switch platforms, they really wouldn't let us if we were popular. The benefits of blockchain powered by Rally.io is it enables creators to have independent economies where they can monetize from different platforms. And it really allows these creators to engage with their fans. The fans can hold the coin or purchase the coin, and they can get access to perks like premium content or get shout outs in different channels, or they can get access to extra products, or sometimes I even do consulting time using the coin. So each creator is using it in very different with their own branded economy. And it's a very powerful way to empower one of the most popular careers in today's modern age.
Yes, it is the information age, and data is the new oil. And certainly content has revolutionized our economy. And you're absolutely right. You know, consumers, younger consumers, the marketplace today, we're very content driven. So Michelle, was that one of the reasons that CoinList really looked at, you know, its collaboration with Rally and looked at really how to empower creators and really tap this economy?
Yeah, so I guess like CoinList's main mission is to support all the up and coming projects, right? And also like blockchain is by itself a space where it requires a lot of creativity and innovation in order to be successful. So it's also not just about like art or music or like very traditional sense of create, but also like people exploring new tech, new market, new forms of interaction with people. Those are all like very important things. And it's also like part of like the blockchain DNA where like all these people trying new things out. And I think that's like very important to blockchain itself and like very important to CoinList. And also like having active creators in the network is very crucial for the project as well. So that's like probably why the project exists in the first hand, right? So like us as the mission to like help the company succeed. That's why like we think like supporting creators is very important, and it's very important that people find real use in these networks and like make money and be happy and do what they like to and enjoy doing and like promote like a great culture in general. So yeah, that's why I kind of see this as a high priority thing to pursue and help.
Yeah, and it seems like a great collaboration in terms of a blockchain company really helping these entrepreneurs and startup founders to really build. Now, Jeremiah, can you tell us a bit more about how you specifically are using Raleigh for your small business?
Sure, sounds good. I do run my own small business and I am a professional speaker, sometimes at physical conferences when those happened, but also lately been doing digital and virtual conferences from my backyard studio, which I'm in right now, called the Tiny Airstream Studios. And really, I use my coin to interact with my fans. Sometimes they purchase for example, my time, which could be time to advise them on some of their projects. I've even hosted rooms in Clubhouse, which is a brand new social audio platform. And we had a very large corporation sponsor it. And I used some of my coin to tip some of the influencers to attend and interact. So I was using that coin to spread throughout my community in a way so we could all win, a big corporation, small businesses, other entrepreneurs and tech communicators like myself. So those are that we're using it, but there's other ways we're thinking of using it, such as premium newsletters, premium communities, or new voting tools. These are all of the new experiments that I'm working on with Rally. I'm an advisor to Rally, so we're looking at the new technologies and the new social networks and trying to mirror them with these blockchain technologies to empower online creators.
So why is it important for entrepreneurs, creators, small businesses to look to emerging technologies, to look to digital assets, to look to this new opportunity to really be part of the innovation economy? Michelle?
Why is it important? I guess I think it's a new way to promote yourself and also like get like mass outreach to people that are also excited in new stuff. So in general, I think it's like you will get like a good group of audiences that are also like interested in what you're doing. And I just think it's like interesting to try these out. And plus, like if you're doing it on like YouTube or like on like some like centralized place, maybe like a lot of the revenue like are not controlled by yourself, and you have like less control on like what you can do and what you want to do and how you want to structure your businesses, right? While if it's decentralized, you have like pretty much full control on how you want to structure, for example, like your creator, how you want to use your creator coin, how you want to incentivize your people, and you don't need to rely on other people to like build these features for you, which I think is a pretty powerful thing, and people should really make use of it.
That is a powerful thing. And Jeremiah, what is your call to action? Why is it important for creators in our audience who are watching right now, these entrepreneurs who are thinking, is this for me?
Well, and this is also important for the economy and to help with jobs. And I'd like to tell two stories. The first one is around women in business. One of the creators with Rally, her name is Christina Holder. She's a Black entrepreneur based in Washington, D.C., and her mission is to get women into business. I was shocked to recently learn that up until 1960s, women could not get their own bank account. That's just shocking. And then even today, only around 20 to 40% of women have cryptocurrencies. Most of it's dominated by men. And so she's working hard with Rally to really democratize cryptocurrencies for her audience, female entrepreneurs and women in business, often women of color. And what she does is she hosts one of the largest clubs in Clubhouse, one of the hottest social networks right now. And she hosts weekly education sessions, and she's given out her woman coin. It's spelled WOMXN to appease all types of women and everywhere. And she helps them to understand how to use cryptocurrencies. She's also using this in different ways to allow folks to own that coin, and they get access in the future to premium newsletters or to premium shows. And she's developing content and is looking to work with sponsors as well. There's over 300 people that own her coin. So that's a tremendous improvement in just a few weeks since she's launched it to really enable cryptocurrency for women in business. The other example is the art community.
That's impressive.
Christine is amazing. Oh, no, that is fine. And actually, I love this coin, this quote from her, and it was featured in a write-up of her. And this is Christina's quote. She says, at the end of the day, I want to change the face of power. And, thinking about women and people of color who have been left behind by economic systems, and the varnish has been pulled off during quarantine and COVID-19. Like, we can see communities at risk, but to use blockchain to empower her community to rise up as one of the tools, I think is a powerful story. Now, another example is the art community. And we have another creator named Matty Mo. I've known him for over 10 years, and I invited him to be part of this project. And he launched the art coin, which is ART. And he does a couple of things. Well, right now, art galleries are closed because of quarantine in many cities. So what he is doing is he's educating 400 to 600 artists, and they're taking art classes. And they could pay with US dollars, or they could purchase the cryptocurrencies and access it. Once they actually learn the art skills collectively as a group, they're creating digital art and they're selling it. It's called NFTs on websites like OpenSea, which is a marketplace to sell digital art. And they're making hundreds of thousands of USD, and they take those revenues and they're converting it back into cryptocurrencies using the art coin. And each of the content creators, in this case digital artists, receives that coin, and it grows in value, and they can use it to interchange and attend more classes and or sell more art or interchange. In this very case, this community of artists has developed their own microeconomy using their own branded coin using cryptocurrencies during a very tumultuous time in history, during an economic upheaval and quarantine during a pandemic. And so tremendous innovation has come out of this art community, the art coin.
Wow.
That sounds
Those
amazing.
Oh no, go ahead, Michelle.
No, I was just saying, yeah, it's really awesome. And it also like proves the point where like with these things, you can structure things very differently and experiment different ways of spinning up a business without like relying on a lot of like other frameworks and stuff. So I think that's a very powerful story.
I think one of the interesting things that this is different is that these are sometimes micro transactions. That could be cents, that could be dollars equivalent. They're very small and they happen rapidly peer to peer, versus today's financial systems just struggle doing some micro transactions in this way. So that's why we're seeing that cryptocurrency is solving this need in this type of economy.
Wow. I'm sure, our audience is sitting there thinking there's a lot that they can tap into. But I think one of the things that they're looking at, especially during Small Business Week, is this great synergy between a blockchain company and working with entrepreneurs that really trying to fuel the marketplace, which is a new approach and a new, business model. And Jeremiah, thank you for sharing those resources and those, innovators. Are there any other resources that each of you can recommend? Obviously, Michelle, we'd love to make sure people know how to get to CoinList and know some of the resources that you have for them. So why don't we start with you, Michelle? What are some of the resources people should be aware about other than the ones we've discussed?
So feel free to like check out the CoinList website. We also have like blogs and like doing project deep dives and like YouTube videos to discuss like what each of the projects are doing. I also like highly recommend like checking out Rally, Flow, and join their Discord channel. Like just participate in the community. I think like the way to get involved the most is to like start doing something and poke around in the projects. At least that's how I learn about stuff. And I think that's a good place to start.
From my perspective, the Rally website has more than enough information. There's Discord servers and forums, and there's actually a blog written on Medium with regular case studies of what companies are doing. So there's many opportunities to read that. When it comes to industry news, like we're seeing blockchain is in the mainstream news from New York Times to Market Watch. Like there's so many large institutions that are moving in. So just doing a search for blockchain or cryptocurrencies and setting up daily alerts in your regular news will help you to stay updated.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now, is there anything we've missed that we want, our audience to be aware of, especially, as we look at, the creative industries, creators, how they're innovating and tapping, digital assets. Any final comments or final thoughts for our audience?
Not really on my side.
Yeah, I think in the future, as cryptocurrencies and creator coins become so common, that it'll be normal for us to see these individuals that are creators to have their own currency, and we may purchase their time with their currency. We may even own those currencies and transact with them on or other websites to go shopping with. We'll use them as common as we will other currencies as well. So all of these digital currencies are becoming more mainstream. Just imagine 20 years ago when we would say we'd only get news from TV, cable, or the newspapers. Now we get it primarily from social networks. Things change so quickly. And I think that democratization will also happen when it comes to currencies, where individual currencies owned by and created by creators might become the default, where we start first. And so I think we're starting to see a significant change for the next few decades.
You will become
Oh, Michelle, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, you will become the currency yourself. And
yes,
yeah,
that's right.
It'll become one.
That's right.
And it's great that you both say that you will become the currency. And even for you, Jeremiah, you said this will become the norm. But for a lot of people watching, this may be a little scary, right? This may be a little, too theoretic and too conceptual. But the reality is this is the future of money, right? This is the future of the marketplace, right? What would you say to folks who are cautious, who are just like, okay, this is just a bit outside of my comfort zone?
I understand, and I got you. Still, even today, around 20% of Americans do not use social media, but still within just a decade and a half, around 80% of Americans use social media. That's a pretty fast adoption. And that's the exact same parallel we will see for personal blockchain cryptocurrencies that we're talking about today, these creator coins or social tokens. I think the adoption curve will be similar. It's not going to all happen overnight, no way. But over the next few decades, watch this transition happen.
Yeah, and I think it is actually very great because it'll become a new way of working where everybody can kind of be self-employed instead of always have to work 9 to 5 in a cooperation for somebody else. It creates way more opportunity to pursue what you want to do or what you're interested in and actually make an income. So I think that's a very great trend.
Well, I'm definitely going to think about the Clev coin, right? What can I build with the Clev coin? And Michelle, you should definitely make time to start your own coin. And Jeremiah, it sounds like you already have yours, so we'll follow your lead.
Sounds good. I'm here to help.
Well, thank you both so much for your insights. This is the kickoff conversation for our forum today, and there'll be lots more conversations today around NFTs, crypto art, but certainly digital assets and how small businesses are really leveraging or should be leveraging this new way of doing business. So thank you both, and to our audience, enjoy the rest of the program.
So now I'm thrilled to introduce Congresswoman Young Kim, who is fighting for entrepreneurs and small businesses in Congress. She serves on the House Small Business Committee and introduced the PPP Extension Act, which President Biden signed into law in March. She is a small business owner herself and understands that in order to revive America's economy, small businesses and the micro enterprises creators are leveraging digital assets must be a priority. Thank you for joining us, Congresswoman Kim.
Hello, I'm Congresswoman Young Kim, representing California's 39th Congressional District. I am thrilled to speak with you today during the National Small Business Week. I'm a former small business owner myself, so I understand the struggles our small business owners face every day. We obviously talk about the statistics behind small businesses here in California and throughout the United States. In California alone, we saw nearly 40,000 small businesses close during COVID-19, and half of those closures are permanent. But these are also real people paying their employees and providing for their families. We cannot forget that. As an immigrant from South Korea who put myself through college, I started a small business and I'm now serving as a member of the United States Congress. I'm committed to helping other Americans, other immigrants, other young women and girls pursue their dream just like I did. We've seen how women and minorities have a harder time accessing the capital they need to start and grow their business. So as our economy reopens, Congress should focus on policies and help small businesses foster innovation rather than stifle it. For instance, I was pleased to see Jeannie Mae is in the process of establishing a blockchain working group consisting of Jeannie Mae technology and business members and participants across U.S. federal housing-related agencies. As ranking member of the Small Business Committee Subcommittee on Innovation, Entrepreneurship, and Workforce Development, I would be focused to ensure the Small Business Administration is studying how the blockchain might be used to reduce costs, reduce risk, enhance stakeholders' experience, improve operations, and meet the needs of small business owners. The distributed ledger technology has the potential of making the entire government more efficient and being more accountable and working better for Americans. The digital tokens and blockchain also has the potential of allowing small businesses and entrepreneurs raise capital in new innovative ways through initial coin offerings and could bridge the gap not yet filled by traditional fundraising options. Innovation and disruption in the marketplace with new technologies is always a net positive because it increases productivity and brings prices down for consumers. I look forward to working with you to foster innovation and the success of our entrepreneurs. Thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kai Sheffield. I'm the head of crypto at Visa, and I'm really excited to be joined by Micah Johnson, who is an absolutely amazing artist and entrepreneur. So welcome, Micah.
No, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be on here with you, Kai, and this is really excited. It's exciting times for everybody right now in crypto.
Yeah, let's jump right in. And so you have a really unique background. You played Major League Baseball. And now you're an artist. So can you talk a little bit about that transition from being an athlete to being an artist and an entrepreneur?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I started painting, I started painting in 2016. I was still playing with the Dodgers at the time. So I was taking canvases on the road with me and like after games, staying up and painting. And when I retired from baseball in 2018, I really wanted to shed that baseball player artist thing. I wanted to really focus on being an artist and let people know this is an artist. And, oh, by the way, did you remember he played baseball type of thing? So, I mean, for that year after I, retired, I just worked in my garage. I had no representation, no, I wasn't selling anything. I was just in my garage in North Carolina, just painting and working on my craft. That was for a year straight, from end of 2018 until summer 2020. I just worked on my craft. And then 2020 happened. That's when I kind of had my break and got picked up by a gallery. And now we're here.
And so you were starting to build a successful career, as an artist in the traditional world, and then you discovered crypto and blockchain. And so, first off, what are non-fungible tokens or NFTs, and how did you come across them? What did they mean for you as an artist?
Yeah. So, first question is like, what is a non-fungible token? And a non-fungible token can be anything. I think right now, a lot of people, associate it with, digital art or primarily, but the real, technology behind it is it allows ownership over digital assets. And true ownership over digital assets is important because there's tons of utility there. You know, we can get into Aku and kind of how I'm using non-fungible tokens, which is a lot different than how I used non-fungible tokens early on when I first got into crypto, which was to sell digital art. I got into it late 2019 because, like I said earlier, I was painting in my garage, making no money. And I had a daughter on the way. So I was like, okay, I got to start figuring out how to make money. And I discovered, crypto, XRP type of stuff. And then I discovered digital art and people were actually making money on it. So I kind of did my own research and put out some little iPad drawings and, people bought it for, I think it was like 1 ETH at the time, which was like, I don't know, a couple $100, or maybe it's 3 ETH, like $900 at the time. And I was like, this is amazing. Like I'm bought in, there's collectors out there. And then what I quickly realized about crypto right away was the community, how strong it was and how supportive they were. Because I was in Discords like all night, late night, talking to somebody in Asia, talking to somebody on the East Coast, West Coast. And they're all like, hey, like you should try this or check out this. And I was like, this is incredible. Like I never had that kind of access to that many intelligent and helpful people before. So that's kind of what led me into crypto and started to figure out just from those conversations, like, what can I do more here? Like, what else can I do? And I started like learning about NFTs and the power that existed with that technology. And, my work kind of developed over time. I took a little break from selling digital art because I was focusing on, okay, what can I really do with these things that have like really long-term utility, but also long-term like value for collectors.
And it's such a cool use case of kind of crypto really starting to power this, creator economy, where crypto used to just be appealing to investors. And now we're seeing these artists, come into the space and really use it as a new form factor for media. So can you talk a little bit more how you think about your collectors in the communities that you're building, and maybe introduce the notion of Aku and the way that you're leveraging NFTs, not just for art, but for new types of media and characters?
Yeah. So, Aku is a direct derivative of my paintings. When my nephew asked if astronauts could be black and I started painting him in an astronaut helmet, I wanted to create something that could be more visible than just my physical painting on your wall. Collector buys my physical painting, it's only seen there, and that's it. But Aku was like that derivative that, okay, I can release it as this digital version of my paintings, and it can be turned into a TV series, a movie, books, anything at that point, right? And kind of how I'm using the blockchain here versus how I did early on, which was like animated paintings, is because I would call it small IP crypto natively, because for two reasons. One, I was able to prove market fit and revenue generating potential before taking it to a TV and film studio and saying, hey, this is my character, and then taking a risk on it. So we can prove that out through crypto. And also, two, I really believed in my vision of taking Aku to TV and film and to, building this kind of world, Aku world, I call it. And these people that believed in Aku early on would be etched on the blockchain in history. Like I compare it to, like, imagine if Walt Disney would have released the first Mickey Mouse episodes on the blockchain, and there's people that believed in him and said, okay, I love this character. I love Walt Disney. I love what you're doing. We'll support you. Imagine if people could be recorded in history. And that's kind of like what I was really aiming for. And, all this success with Aku at this point was a 2 to 3 year play. I grossly underestimated the power in the crypto community to turn an NFT release into a TV and film deal, into 1 million impressions on Twitter and on Snapchat in less than 60 days. And that is the power of crypto. And kind of like my focus now is like, okay, how can I really build out the infrastructure here to allow other creators to funnel small IP in here, maybe get funded to build other bigger things out. Instead of taking a script or a character to a studio and losing all your rights and just selling it off, like now you can say, look, I have 1 million followers, or I have 1 million impressions. Like, let's talk, let's make a deal. It's very empowering.
That's so cool, and it seems like in a way it's just lowering the barrier to entry for creators to be able to put something out into the world and to be able to directly monetize it. So how do you think about it in the context of social media as well, where as an artist, before NFTs, you would post on social media, but it was harder to get collectors to buy. Like, how do you see, crypto and NFTs intersecting with social media, in the future?
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to build organic following or community these days. Everybody's trying to, become an influencer on social media, Instagram. Okay. And you see a lot of celebrities posting sponsored ads. It's very difficult to build an organic community. One thing that crypto allows you to do, and how, let's just call it the Aku play, is because you have people mutually incentivized, because they can see there's a secondary market there with NFTs, right? They can see you actually working, and you can post it on social media. Like today, we launched the filter with Snapchat, right? They can see we're building something here, and they're already bought in, and they can see the value together. So the community is mutually incentivized to engage and spread the word about Aku because they're invested in it, right? And that's what's interesting, a little different about how I kind of saw social media before. It was just posting to kind of drive traffic to my paintings, which were a lot of times expensive, right? Now I can post on social media and drive traffic to Aku and build this thing together. And it's really powerful. And you can see on social media the conversations people have about Aku, and just different collectors or different people. And I see Aku as this, I see Aku as that. So there's a perfect harmonious balance between social media and NFTs and crypto, because it's a community of people mutually incentivized.
And from a collector's perspective, it's been really fascinating to see that in a way, buying and collecting is the new liking, where you have artists that are doing incredible work. Just liking it seems like a very shallow behavior versus actually being able to support that artist and then having a stake in that artist's success. And so it's almost like it's a new asset. Where individuals who can recognize culture and the value in amazing creativity are now able to own a piece of that culture, and so your collectors are incentivized to help you succeed. And so it feels like it's just changing the relationship between artists and creators and their collectors.
Yeah, 100%. We created a Discord shortly before we dropped chapter 2. Because, I wanted to see if the community would kind of build the story as well, and just give them opportunity to talk about upcoming chapters. And what's really cool though, is that since there's that TV and film deal, right, what they're talking about in the Discord or on Twitter, and we got these chapters play a role in the future, vision of Aku, right? It's really cool because I bought into Aku and I'm in this secret room now, and I can talk about it. I own 1 and 2 chapters, but now I'm in this room. I can when the movie comes out and it's oh, I remember we were talking about this in Discord. It's it's really, really, really cool, and I think it's such a new thing, and that there's endless potential to go this way and that way, and it's such a new frontier. It's a generational opportunity, I truly believe.
Yeah, and it's been really encouraging to see how this connects back to Black economic empowerment and the ability for Black artists and creators. And it's almost like there's a movement. There's a Black crypto art movement where you've been leading it, but there are many other artists that are creating amazing work. And so, how do you see this really helping to have Black and diverse artists be able to reach an audience? Compared to the traditional art world, where it's been very difficult for Black artists to be recognized and to break through.
Yeah, it's super powerful. You and I talk all the time about some of our artists we're looking at, and it's now they have an opportunity to it's almost like they can all meet in one place, right? On Twitter, they're talking together, and on Twitter, we can boost them up, and you have just by saying oh, Lethabo is I love Lethabo's work, right? And you can elevate them, and people can invest in them directly right then and there. It's very challenging to find a Lethabo, right, in all these galleries across the world. But now that crypto is such an international thing, like we can discover these artists and support them and talk about them on you know, in interviews and talk about them on Twitter and retweet what they're doing. And it's like, it's a very powerful community, because even with the Aku launch, right, like a few people, like, you know, got together, right, like, and said, okay, this is what we want to do. And then, you know, CBE got together and said, this is what we want to do. And you saw the result of that, right? And it was super powerful to see people rally together and the power that exists in just like evangelizing something, right? And the fact that crypto is an international thing and you got people all over the world, it makes it very easy to support. Like just a minute ago, I was bidding on an artist and I just got outbid. So I'm not gonna say the name because I need to get in there.
There is a real ecosystem, and I think just, you know, the fact that you can have yourself as a Black artist, you know, creating a character in Aku that represents, you know, Black empowerment, that is being, you know, selling millions of dollars to Black collectors. It's almost like a new form of group economics, and you have, you know, Black people being able to support the, you know, images and the characters that they want to see in the world. So can you talk a little bit about kind of more the mission of Aku and what you think Aku can do to inspire and help, you know, really create, you know, removing barriers for Black kids as they think about, you know, their economic opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I said, Aku is a very personal and organic story, you know, like, you know, derived from my nephew thinking he had limits to his dreams, right? And then here on another hand, I'm a person who achieved his dreams, right? So how do I can't go out there and say like, I did this and this is the steps to follow, right? It's different because, you know, growing up, you see people on TV and you're like, yeah, they're on TV. I don't know if I can actually do that because I don't know anybody that does that, right? Or I never met somebody like that. Or like growing up, I didn't know a single professional baseball player, right? So Aku for me is very, very personal because I wanted to show, you know, my nephew watched me on TV, yet still thought there was limits to his dreams, right? So he knew somebody that was on TV and still thought that. So I said, okay, how many kids out there really think there's limits to their dreams? Creating Aku allows me to kind of like speak through Aku in that sense, right? Like instead of just sitting on a soapbox and saying, I did this practice this many days and this many days, Aku can be a conduit to showcase different potential opportunities that exist. You know, Aku, we see him with the astronaut helmet on, but there's also a million other jobs at NASA that you can actually do, right? There's ways to be a part of this. So like having Aku be that conduit through STEM programs and the way teachers are using Aku in school is really powerful. And that's kind of how I see Aku, as a conduit, not like he's just very confident and he's a leader and all this, but also he can navigate and introduce us to things we didn't know existed. Like, you know, I was speaking to Jeanette Epps, who's set to be the first Black woman to live an extended period of time at the space station. And she was talking about all these different opportunities at NASA that exist, like talking about personal fitness and stuff. I'm like, there's so many opportunities here that we don't know about. And it's just, I see Aku as that ability to like, kind of like teach, like, okay, you have this, like your dream might be an astronaut, but there's very few that are astronauts. So what else could you do in the system and support an astronaut or work at NASA or work in space, you know, or science, right? And using Aku that way is something that I'm very, very, you know, passionate about, just from an educational standpoint of what's possible.
Yeah, it's super powerful. And I think that, you know, a lot of people, you know, saw themselves in Aku. And I think, you know, everyone is a consumer of media. And we're used to, you know, we consume whatever media is out there, but it feels like what, you know, blockchains and NFTs are doing is they're allowing us to participate in the creation of media. And, you know, I'm not an artist, I can't create anything, but I can see a type of media that's very early stage created by a small business. You know, you're an individual entrepreneur, and then I can support that media and help it to then get backed and become something that can resonate with people. And so I get so excited about this because it's like it's the changing nature of what it means to be a small business. We spend a lot of time thinking about small businesses just as a, you know, brick and mortar, but now you're an individual and you're a small business painting in a garage a year ago, and now you have a movie that's going to come out based upon a character that you created. And so how do you think about just that transition of how quickly it can happen with these new platforms like blockchains compared to what a small business, a Walt Disney, generations ago would have had to do to go from an idea to actually something that takes off and becomes a business?
Incredibly powerful tools here at our disposal, and everybody has access to them. Everybody has the same level of opportunity to learn about them, right? It is a very powerful tool in the sense of like Aku. You, as a creator, you never expect to do well. Like you know what I mean? You create something like, oh, I think it might be maybe a personal thing, but it's like, I hope this does well. And you believe in the process and you trust in the process and you've seen the process. So I trusted when I released it that day that the process is good, the vision is good. Let's play this out for 2 to 3 years and see and try to build this, right? What crypto did was say, okay, this is what we want to be seen like now, right? Like we want this in our media. We want this on TV. We want this in the films. Like we want this in the books, right? And so what I did was, you talk about a small business, formed a company. Okay, this is the Aku company. Now, instead of taking the revenue from these NFT sales and just that's the revenue and whatever it is, let's reinvest this into the Aku company and let's see how big we can actually build this and how many people we can actually reach and how many different demographics, different characters, different storylines we can actually create, different verticals. Like, like I said, people are using Aku in school. Okay, let's reinvest this and then let's figure out how to build an educational arm that maybe you partner with a NASA and now you can introduce different opportunities. Or let's build this movie and TV and let's build characters and get other characters and storylines out there, right? And that all happened since February 21st. Like all that happened because of crypto. Like think about that. Like and literally, I'm in these meetings and it's funny because I'll talk to the TV and film people and they'll be like, I was like, I got to be honest with you. I don't know anything about your world, but this is my vision and this is what I want to do. And crypto allows me to say that because I have the community and the revenue to show this is the vision is working. So let's have a different conversation here, right? Like crypto, and I'm not a genius. I'm not an expert in crypto, nothing like that. I just understood the power that existed there. And it's just from on the internet. Okay, cool. Okay, I see. Okay, that's dope. All right. And just kind of built and just trusted in the vision and very authentic and original to myself. I can't tell another story.
It's such a powerful case study about what this technology can do, and you're such an inspiration, and Aku is such an inspiration to so many people. So thank you, Micah, for joining us. It was a pleasure, and please keep building and inspiring people.
No, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Hello and welcome to the virtual Blockchain Small Business Week Forum presented by the National Policy Network of Women of Color in Blockchain. I'm Dr. Tanya M. Evans, Professor of Law at Penn State Dickinson Law School, CEO of Advantage Evans LLC, and creator of the Advantage Evans Academy, and 2 engaging and info-rich courses to prepare you for the future of wealth, work, and creativity. The flagship course, From Cash to Crypto, is an onboarding experience for those who are new to crypto or who want to take their understanding to the next level. And my latest short course, the NFT Law Guide for Creatives and Collectors, teaches you everything you need to know about NFTs, intellectual property, terms of service, rights and royalties and revenues, everything you need to know to prepare you to win in this emerging creative economy. The lifeblood of this great country is in small business, and our recovery depends on successful, thriving small businesses who always figure out how to do more with less. But we shouldn't have to. And some of the small businesses of the past have, with the proper support, opportunity, and foundation, gone on to be hugely successful. When small business wins, we all win. And I'm excited for the future of business and innovation in the new economy. So let's go and let's grow.
I am Maria Bustillos. I am the founding editor of the Brick House Journalism Cooperative and editor-in-chief of Popula, an alternative news and culture magazine. I was the first journalist to archive the full text of a news article on a public blockchain. So I've been in this game for a long time. Today, I am joined by Beatriz Helena Ramos, co-founder of Dada, a platform leveraging blockchain where people speak visually through drawings. She's an artist and an entrepreneur. Previously, Bea was an illustrator for the New York Times and worked in animated TV shows for MTV, Disney, and Cartoon Network. Welcome, Beatriz.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to meet you. I've been reading about Dada with a great deal of interest because like I say, I've been involved in crypto for a long time in different levels. And I always thought that the most fascinating aspect of blockchain technology was its potential with respect to creating incorruptible recordings. And it always seemed like the greatest possible innovation for anything to do with cultural memory. So I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about that and how the business aspects or the currency aspects of blockchain technology have sort of overwhelmed the cultural aspects. It's something I'm really interested in correcting and addressing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we started the platform before in 2014. So we got into blockchain in 2017. So by the time we got into blockchain, we already had a very, over 150,000 members of the community, a very vibrant community, and we were interested in decentralization and in figuring out new ways of creating a sustainable economy for this community, which is a very special community. Everybody is motivated by intrinsic rewards. And so when you put money in a community like that, then all the intrinsic rewards are gone, right? And then it all becomes about selling art and things like that. So that was actually what attracted us to blockchain back then. And back then, everything was about, helping the unbanked get into this new financial world, right? Like it was a lot about this idealistic potential for this technology to change things. And in the last 3.5 years, it's just become the opposite. It's become just finance and DeFi and speculation and all of that, right? So for us, it's been an interesting ride because we were one of the first projects in actually create NFTs on Ethereum. We launched our first collection right after CryptoPunks using their tech, their smart contracts, and working off of that, and before CryptoKitties. And when the CryptoKitties craze came, it was a red flag for us, and we decided not to sell anything anymore, not participate in the market, and instead to really focus on creating an economy. And so to answer your question, it's interesting for us because we were the first to ever code royalties for artists on smart contracts. It took the actual ecosystem 3 years, and the artists to get together and talk to all the platforms after the pandemic began last year for them to actually agree on giving them 10% royalties. So that gives you an idea of how bad things are in that sense. Like this is an ecosystem that is supposed to be doing really great for artists. And the reality is that it's just replicating exactly the same mechanics and the same dynamics. Socially, you have to have, be an influencer, have a social, a lot of followers, things like that, but also economically, repeating markets and speculative markets. And so, yes.
It's human nature. I mean, my experience is so a mirror of yours on the journalism side. I have been involved consistently, like trying to find the way to use this technology to help on the information side. to create more reliable information, to combat misinformation, to create records that can constantly be used to construct a more accurate history for the world, right? There's all these reasons. But it's human nature that enters into the systems and corrupts them just no matter what kind of tools you use. And so
we've done a lot of, you can imagine 4 years of research and really going deep. I would say that it's not human nature. It's not human nature corrupting the system. It's actually the system defining what we do within that system, defining our incentives, defining our behaviors. The environment defines our behaviors. So what I see, the potential of the technology is incredible. I'm still in love with it. Is what you're saying in terms of how we can change everything, in terms of how we record, how, what gets into history. Even we participate in the crypto art page of Wikipedia, just to give you an example. And they don't know, the editors know nothing about crypto art, but they have these arcane rules. If it's in the New York Times, it's valid. But if it's in Bitcoin.com, it's not valid. If it's in somebody's blog, it's not valid. And how it can be, all these projects were so early that they didn't have press, or they had, So I convinced them by putting all the smart contracts that these projects, when they deployed the smart contracts on the blockchain, that's a record that is immutable and irrefutable. So that's what blockchain is so, right? It didn't even occur to me. I was complaining, to our group, and somebody said, just you have the smart contracts on the blockchain, go and tell them. And so you can see that the potential is amazing. But was that, yeah. But what I would say though, yeah, exactly. And it's irrefutable, right? It's just there's no question about it. So, but what I would say is that the technology is amazing in the sense that you have this new technology that has embedded, this is the way I explain it at least, that has embedded the social layer and the economic layer. And then you have governance of that, the social and the economic, right? So, but what's happening is that you have this amazing technology, and then replication of the social level, replication of the economic level of markets and so on, and then replication on the actual governance models. So what I see is just utterly, it's like an appalling lack of imagination when it comes to the things that we could imagine, the things that we could redesign. We have this amazing opportunity to redesign everything and make it leave, hundreds of years of, the markets or the industrial era, for instance. The incentives of the industrial era doesn't work for the information era, what is all about creativity and about innovation, right? So we have such an opportunity to make these information networks work economically, being self-sustaining in a completely new way. I think that go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think it will help viewers understand the point that you're making, because when we talk about creating economies, that requires a big leap for people who are not thinking of economy as, So I think one way we can address this profitably would be, so to speak, would be to talk about the difference between NFTs and digital art. People are reading about NFTs all the time, and they've become this sort of villainous, sort of monster, So I would love to hear your thoughts on that distinction, and tell me how that defines what you think of as a healthy economy moving forward for the art space.
Mm-hmm. Well, the case for NFT, there is the obvious case, which is a technology that not only brings ownership and traceability of the ownership, and also attribution. So the artists will always have their attribution attached to this digital object. that is what the NFTs in itself did different from what was already been done in recording this on the blockchain, the provenance, was that it created digital scarcity, right? The market likes scarcity, so they call it digital scarcity. But to me, what is really revolutionary is that the uniqueness of it. And so the way I explain NFTs is that, when you have to see it in the context of blockchain and or technology, right? So Bitcoin, what they did is that it solved the double spending problem, which was that if I gave you a virtual money, a virtual coin, and I gave it to someone else, there was not a way of verifying that I wasn't double spending it. And so what Bitcoin solves with blockchain and with all these nodes and the consensus is that at the moment that I give you a Bitcoin, everybody, all the nodes agree, they get a consensus and they say, yes, I just gave you that Bitcoin. And if I try to give it to somebody else, they will say, no, you don't have it because you can view it without copying it, right? So now you have it and I don't have it. And so what NFTs did is that next step in which now is unique. So things that are unique like art or identity that are not fungible, that are not interchangeable or divisible, collectibles, or even, fruits, apples that we can actually trace, an apple that comes from Africa and know exactly what happened or where it comes from. Things that are unique now can be these cryptographic objects that are attached to the actual, the art or that I can transfer to you without copying it. So people always get confused. Well, if you can copy it, what's the point? But you can think about it. If you go to the MoMA, to museum, and you take a picture of the Starry Nights of Van Gogh, or you actually make an exact copy in oils, right? Like you do forgery, and you make an exact copy. Still, the value is in the one that is the original, right? That is a MoMA. So it's the same with a token. So there's a beautiful opportunity to actually change our mindsets in terms of how we think about copyrights and how we think about value, right? That is not price. That is in the sense that now you can have abundance, and digital is abundant, right? And you can capture value without telling anyone that it can't. Everyone can see the art, right? Anyone in the world, anyone can have access to this without having to say, well, in order to capture value, I don't give you access, so you have to pay. Now everyone can see it and still capture the value because it's in my wallet, right? It's in my possession.
I think a really good way of expressing this, Bea, is to say, like, we have captured the origin of an object. We've captured whether it's a news article or artwork, and why should an NFT be valuable if I buy it from you, if I loved your painting? Well, no matter what happens, it's sort of like being the first person to understand that Van Gogh was a brilliant painter. I was there. I was the one who bought the painting from Bea. I was the one who understood what was going to happen. I was there at the origin. And that's what people want when they buy collectibles. They want a piece of the moment that is past.
The history. Yeah. Piece of history, piece of the story. Yes, of course. I mean, it's interesting.
Yes.
But it's interesting because, I think there's a lot of speculation. So that's the problem, right? That is a speculative market. And so speculators may not understand art, so they may or may not understand the aesthetics of art. They do understand historic importance. That's why the CryptoPunks are so valuable, right? They understand that the word, early projects have value. But art has a lot more. There has a lot of intangible values that you can't capture in a price. And what we are doing on data and the invisible economy, which is what we're working on, is capturing everything that is intangible in this token economy, in this token. And so you can think about tokens, whether they're non-fungible or fungible, as a way of capturing new value. In our case, intrinsic value, intangible value, that is beyond the economic value, and you can transfer that economic value to the token. And so
there was a great example of this on your white paper with the non-saleable digital object recording the killers of. Can you speak about that? Because I thought it was absolutely fascinating, and it really says a lot about what you're saying now.
Yeah, it's a bit of a controversial project, and that was the idea. It was when last year when Black Lives Matter protests happened. I think around after George Floyd death. What we did was to figure out this. First of all, was done by a decentralized group, so people just like collaborated, and there was like no identity. We also tested how we could do a project completely decentralized because it was a controversial thing. So we saw that the killings that have been the murders of some of the Black people by police. When you look at the information, and you're a journalist, right? It's very interesting. You look at the information, and there's actually very little information about the police who killed these people. There's a lot of information about the people, but not the police. It's hard to find their names. It's hard to find their pictures. It's almost like there is a concentrated effort in cleaning up or resisting giving that information. And we realized that there were very few that actually were convicted. I think there were 30 or something that we found. There were cases in which Black people were not. They didn't have any arms. They didn't have, like, there was cases that is like Breonna Taylor, for instance. I mean, she was sleeping in her house, right? These cases where they didn't have guns or anything. And only, I think, two of them were convicted, or 30. And so what we did was like we found the pictures of these policemen, put them into mugs as if they were having convicted, put the names of the victims and the circumstances in which the victims actually died under police. And then we put them into the image into a permanent blockchain called Airwave, which you can actually, the actual website and the pictures are permanent. They can be censored. We created those NFTs. We created wallets in the names of the victims and put the NFT of the police into those wallets. And we throw away the keys and the seed phrases. So there's no way that anybody can do anything with that will exist forever as a record. Nobody has control of those wallets. And I think that's a very good, I mean, there were people who were questioning the rights of the police to be forgotten. And you have to question, well, what about the rights of the Black person who got murdered? And the police never actually...
Yeah, what I found fascinating was the right of the reporters and artists to speak themselves. Like, what about our freedom of speech as journalists, right? And I thought this project was a really interesting and fast and very edge case of, the intersection between art and journalism and the recording of history. And I love that it wasn't for sale, like that just really altered.
If we had put it for sale, it would have been opportunistic, right? It will completely have changed the tenor. I mean, the whole point was to actually, that's the value of art, right? To question things, to make people think about it.
Illustration of how this can make a new kind of artwork possible, because it cannot be accused of sensationalism. Nobody will profit or benefit by it. It's not, some Beeple type figure saying, I made this and I'm the one bringing attention. No, it's like, it's a collaborative project. There's no star. It's just, here is a thing that we should remember. That's it. Nothing else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Remember and also question, right? Like really like think about it. So those are the things I think that are so important, like to fake news, for instance. It'd be so easy to work on something in which you can just like go to a website or to someplace and know. I mean, it's true that there is also the problem of the first registry, right? That's a big problem. That blockchain, yeah. If somebody comes here and I have a painting and steals the painting and registers in the blockchain as there, then from then on it's going to be verified, right? But the first registry is wrong. And so I don't know how they're going to solve that. We don't have that problem because in data, everything is done on the platform with our tools. So it's blockchain native as it is. We know exactly who did it and when and all of that.
So in closing, can you tell me how everyone watching here should think about what's the most important thing that they should think coming away from your work with respect to the future of art and blockchain?
Yeah, so there's a lot of misgivings and I think with reason, right? That these NFTs are not, these environmental issues, there's all this money making, all this like easy money type of thing, speculation and questioning the value. I mean, you have a VPL with $69 million and then it's more than a monet, right? Like it's just absurd. So what I will say though is that the potential still is incredible. The technology, even if we haven't demonstrated or the ecosystem hasn't demonstrated yet the actual potential, the potential is there. And so for me, what gives me hope is that there's a lot of people working in actually unlearning a lot of the things that we have learned over the years and really imagining new ways. And there's a lot of experimentation. A lot of things are going to go wrong. A lot of things are going to go great. But in our case, our experience has been just incredible. We are designing an economy in which artists are the ones designing, and no money involved. Everybody's working, motivated by intrinsic rewards. We do sessions every week of hours and hours, and it goes on, and everybody's there because they want to, and they're excited, and it's stimulating, and you're passionate about. So it is possible to think different, to change our mindsets and really create something new. And that's the exciting thing. And I will tell anyone who is interested to join us.
Okay. Thank you, Beatriz. I really enjoyed our conversation so much, and good luck. I love what you're doing. And
Thank you so much.
Oh, it was really fun. Happy Cinco de Mayo to everyone. I now have the honor of introducing Congressman Darren Soto, co-chair of the Congressional Blockchain Caucus. He serves in the leadership of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and he is a staunch champion of inclusion and equity. Welcome, Congressman Soto.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to speak to everyone today at this national briefing of women of color and blockchain, and addressing the themes of digital assets and blockchain in transforming small businesses. We know this week is National Small Business Week, and the importance of that is clear. Cryptocurrency allows for small businesses to provide services across the world in a much more efficient and cost-effective manner, and we'll go into that a little more in a moment. We also know it's Cinco de Mayo today, and as a fellow Hispanic of Puerto Rican descent in this case, we know so many communities of color, we do remittances, both to Caribbean island nations that our families are in Central and South America and across the world. And remittances is another area we'll see a huge growth in cryptocurrency as we avoid the transactional costs of currency differences and fees for remittances that support multi-billion-dollar industries now, but those are vastly and quickly changing. And another question that was brought to our attention is why supporting small businesses and micro enterprises vital to the nation's economic recovery. And I think one of the keys that I think many of us understand is most Americans are employed by small businesses. Small businesses become big businesses eventually, and that helps drive growth both in our nation and across the globe. And also speaking of the importance of small businesses in Cinco de Mayo, Latina-owned small businesses are the fastest growing segment in the United States business community. There's been 87% growth since 2007 in Latina-owned businesses. We see that with a lot of women of color as they seek opportunities, and certainly that's exciting, and allowing, particularly with services, being able to offer services over in New Zealand or in Greenland, over in Tokyo in Japan, or in Argentina or other areas across the globe through the internet with a funding source that doesn't require all these transactional costs really means that the sky's the limit for those savvy business owners who know how to harness this new technology. We know we face some challenges. First is regulatory clarity and government coordination. We know right now there's uncertainty. And so 50% of the expenses of many startups in the cryptocurrency space and the blockchain space generally go to legal because people are trying to navigate the really vague landscape here in the United States because of lack of laws in place, and therefore agencies that without laws are doing mission creep and are still determining how they're going to regulate things. And so that's one of the main things we're focusing on is greater clarity with the Digital Taxonomy Act and the Token Taxonomy Act. Between the two bills, one introduced by myself along with many members of the Blockchain Caucus, and the other introduced by Warren Davidson out of Ohio, would establish jurisdiction between the CFTC, FTC, Comptroller of the Currency, and the SEC, because we know, and it would create a new asset, a digital asset, because the 1920s and 30s definitions and security statutes and financial statutes just simply don't cut it with this new technology. As we know, cryptocurrency can be a currency, it could be a future, it could be a commodity, and in limited cases, it can be a security. So establishing those definitions and jurisdiction is going to be key to growth. We had some success at the end of last term. We passed 2 bills out of the House related to blockchain technology and cryptocurrency generally. A modified version of the Digital Taxonomy Act, which more slow rolled what we're trying to do, unfortunately, but still forward progress as well as the Blockchain Innovation Act. And both of them, because our main battle in Congress is ignorance, not necessarily party, getting members comfortable with blockchain technology to aggregate data for cybersecurity, as well as for cryptocurrency generally, the application that we know is utilized for so many business transactions. So both these bills together would require the Department of Commerce and the Federal Trade Commission to come back with reports to further get agencies on the same page as Congress and educate other members of Congress so that we could get to where we want to be, which is past this regime of both definitions and jurisdiction to have that certainty. In addition, we're setting up efforts to have a blockchain center of excellence coming out of the Commerce Department. I serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee, so a lot of these bills go directly through our committee, where a lot of technology, whether it's the internet and internet privacy, whether it's consumer protection among technology or other issues, go through that major business committee. We've had some near-term wins, though, that are exciting. Most of them we've secured through the appropriations process, through budget language. Everything from requiring the Department of Energy and the VA, as well as our Veterans Administration, as well as Office of Personnel and Management, to consider using blockchain to protect their data and aggregate data, and everything from digital solutions to modernize our electric grids to protecting our IT and employee information from cyber attacks to using the VA and blockchain to more efficiently organize dates and decrease wait times for veterans. We also got in language for IRS tax guidance on de minimis transactions so that we can avoid having folks get caught up with the IRS in de minimis transactions, as well as using blockchain for food traceability through the FDA so that we can use this new technology to make food supply, pharmaceuticals, and other essential medical equipment more safe. And we were even able to get over $2 million in funding to help fund that program. Lastly, we're working on major innovation in the defense area, knowing that blockchain is key for communication between our troops and for cybersecurity. We are working to establish blockchain as one of our qualitative military edge areas, an area where DoD would continue to have to update our ability in the US military using blockchain for those critical areas. That passed out of the House, it did not pass the Senate. So we'll be fighting for that again in the National Defense Authorization Act. In summary, we're really excited about the potential that cryptocurrency means for small businesses going global, for so many new businesses created by women of color, and as well as educating the Congress to finally provide greater certainty both for use of blockchain, certainty in regulatory and legal schemes for the federal government and for cryptocurrency, and appreciate the continued efforts of all of you pushing this very exciting sector. We need to make sure that the free world, that democracies win this battle over both authoritarian regimes and those areas that don't share our values of equality, democracy, and making sure that we have free enterprise. So this is a battle we are in it for the long term for, and appreciate everyone participating in the conference today.
Hi, thank you everyone. And thank you so much for your remarks, Representative Soto. We all appreciate the leadership that you are bringing to this space. We're here this afternoon. This panel is here to discuss how digital assets can transform small business. My name is Susan Friedman, and I'm the head of public policy at Ripple. I'm joined today by Yana Novikova, the director of product at Ripple X, and Matt Sancombe, the co-founder and CEO of Outvoice and Hard Times. Yana and Matt, if you want to take a minute just to introduce yourselves to the audience, maybe starting with Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here and talk about how digital assets can help small businesses. I ran a couple small businesses. I have some digital assets myself, so I'm very excited to have a conversation about it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Yana Novikova, and I'm a director of product at Ripple. I am, in my current role, actually lead the product for Ripple X, which is a business unit within Ripple, and is specifically focused on an open source developer platform that's used by developers to build new applications and use cases around XRP and XRP Ledger. I'll go in more detail during the panel, but I've been with Ripple for almost 7 years now. I am based in San Francisco, and prior to Ripple, I was a software engineer for JPMorgan Chase, where I worked on credit card applications. So I'm super excited to be here, and thank you very much for having me.
That's great. Let's just dive right into it. Starting with Matt. In addition to being a small business entrepreneur yourself, you are the head of publisher relationships at a company called Coil. Maybe you could start by telling us a little bit about Coil, what the company does, and what your role is there, and what brought you to it.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I started off my journey in this space as a journalist. Then I became a publisher myself. I had my own publication. And when you're a publisher, you have a lot of challenges. One of the main ones is monetizing your audience. Even if you can gather millions of eyeballs, they're not always worth so much because of the way audiences are monetized nowadays. What Coil is doing is trying to build a better way for that to happen across the entire internet. It's called web monetization. The idea, in short, is every second that Coil users look at content, they can send a micro donation to that content creator. So for me, as a publisher, what this means is instead of relying on advertising or data tracking or all sorts of other somewhat unsavory ways of monetizing an audience, I can get grassroots support from my viewers through Coil, web monetization, and digital assets. So they can send me just a tiny fraction of a digital asset for every single second that they look at my content. So at Coil, what I'm doing is I'm working with other publishers as the head of publisher relations to tell them about this technology and to get them onboarded and to help them see it as a meaningful iron in the fire for a future of micro donations in the publishing industry, which I'm particularly excited about. And the reason why I started this role was because I was so interested in the technology. I started doing all this work anyways. So I'm a big supporter of the idea.
No, that's great. And why do you think, if you could speak a little bit more, why are digital assets, do you think, so uniquely qualified, if you will, or beneficial for this model to begin with?
Yeah, sure. I think when people think of digital assets, sometimes they think of the news stories of Dogecoin going up however many percent. They think of these speculative things, but they have certain properties to them that other assets do not. And so if you're trying to send a tiny fraction of a penny across the world for every second that someone looks at content, digital assets are the best way to do that. The technology that Coil's building is the best way to do that, web monetization. So the reason why, as a small business person, I'm interested in digital assets is because it's the best way to get the job done. So my option is either I wait 30, 60, 90 days for an advertising company to send me a check, or I get to increase the value of my audience and have them instantly send me value over the internet for every second that they consume my content. I think that's a much healthier way for publications to support themselves. And so I think the work that's happening at Coil is incredibly interesting for the industry that I came up in as a journalist.
And there's also, I think you mentioned this as well, there's some sunk cost to not just waiting for the check to come from the advertiser, but like actually looking for that funding to begin with. Is that fair? Just the groundwork involved in building up your the base of funds that you would need to operate.
Absolutely. So I started my first publication with $800 and a couple of friends of mine, right? We fell into just about every pit hole along the way, trying to figure it out. And the cost of getting some of these larger scale monetization strategies off the ground can be very large. If you want to build up an advertising business, you likely need a salesperson, you need a media kit, you need connections. With Coil and web monetization, you need just a payment pointer, you need a line of code at the top of your website, and people can instantly start sending you micro donations, which you can immediately receive in a wallet and start using to pay your bills. So it speeds up the whole process, but I also feel like it's more holistic, right? You see a huge shift in the way that content creators want to be paid. This is the part of the success behind Patreon and Substack, is people want to monetize their audiences directly. Publishers don't have that great of a set of options to monetize their audiences directly at the moment, unless you're like the New York Times and you have a subscription paywall or so. So I feel like web monetization and the stuff that Coil is working on can be extremely beneficial for small to medium-sized content creators. And when we talk about small businesses, these are real small businesses, like very small. And so I feel like this technology can be a big help, which is why I went and I rounded up about 20 or so of my comedy publishing buddies / rivals, just anyone who was doing the same thing as me. And we all banded together, started using this technology. And this allows Coil users to sign up, pay $5 a month. And then no matter which one of the comedy sites they land on, they can instantly send micro donations to those sites.
It's a great point. I mean, when you think about the conversation happening around paywalls and paid content, and understanding that all journalism has that value and creators deserve to be paid for what they create, but it's hard to establish that at the outset, right? So like the person who's going to pay for the New York Times won't necessarily pay at the outset for these new small businesses. And it's in that way, COIL sounds like it's solving a real world problem of helping these businesses get off the ground, find their audience base, and get paid for what it is that they're putting out there.
And it's particularly businesses that are not at the absolute top of the pile, right? If you look at Patreon, you look at their stats, you'll find the biggest podcasts actually collect, a huge chunk of all of the money, right? And if you look at which subscription paywalls work in publishing, you'll find the New York Times does very well. But what about all the other people, right? And so with web monetization, you have this idea of people signing up, and then wherever they go, all the kind of medium-sized guys like me, I might have 2 million, 3 million unique users on my website each month. But I'm actually not able to monetize those 2 or 3 million eyeballs as well as the New York Times does right now, because they have a direct ad sales team, right? They have relationships. They also have a stronger brand. Let's put that out there. But my 2 to 3 million eyeballs each month on COIL and on web monetization using those digital assets, they're worth the same amount. And I don't need an ad sales team, and I don't need a bunch of heavy infrastructure. Right. COIL's already built it. So I think that's very powerful.
I know that you are focused, and your background as a journalist, you're focused in the publishing area. Are you seeing other places where this model could have a transformative effect?
Yeah, so I focus on journalism and publishing because that's my background. But running a comedy website, you get to know a lot of different comedy creators. And this problem is pretty far reaching. There's a lot of people who are producing content which is enjoyed by large audiences, but is not monetized properly. And I feel like web monetization, the idea of streaming micropayments automatically for every second that you look at something, perhaps with the addition of the ability to tip if you really, really like it, I feel like that's a very strong idea. And the way that COIL's building it is particularly interesting because it's not that closed walled garden of something like Patreon, where you have like someone deciding whether or not you're on or off Patreon. This is just a line of code. It's a payment pointer, and you can kind of just use those rails that COIL's building to monetize your content. So I see it far beyond journalism and publishing. You can already look at platforms like Cinnamon, which is essentially like a video site similar to YouTube, but instead of ads, they use web monetization. And I've got some videos on there, and I find that a much better solution. So I think there's a lot of different ways that people can use this technology, but the unique properties of the digital assets that are moving to move that value helps a lot. It wouldn't be possible without them.
Just for the audience, you mentioned Patreon a couple of times. Can you just explain what that is?
Sure. Yeah. Sorry about that. Patreon is a service that a lot of content creators use. And what it is essentially a subscription service where you can set up, and let's say you have your favorite podcaster, you can pay them $5 a month through their Patreon. And then on their Patreon, they might be able to give you some gated content like exclusive episodes of their podcast. The unfortunate aspect of a solution like that is that, let's say you listen to 5 podcasts. Well, you might only subscribe to the Patreons of the top 1 or 2, and the others might have a lot of listeners, but not very good monetization. And I think what's really interesting about what COIL is building is you could spend most of your time on the 1 or 2, but when you go over to number 3, 4, and 5, you would still be sending in micro donations to those podcasts.
That's great. Before we turn to Yana, I think the audience would benefit from hearing a little bit about your own journey as a small business owner and entrepreneur, and just what you have been involved in addition to your work at COIL.
Sure. Yeah. So I started as a journalist. I wrote for like Rolling Stone, SF Weekly. I used to play in bands, so it's mostly music journalism. I became the publisher of The Hard Times. It kind of exploded overnight into a very popular thing in the music community. that's when I had to learn how to monetize audiences, and I found it to be very difficult, especially when we don't have very many resources. And I think that that experience led me to always be looking for an iron in the fire. I always want something, I want to get in on the ground floor of the next thing that's really going to help the publishing industry. And that's kind of what made my DNA the type of guy who wants to learn more about COIL and web monetization. I ended up selling that business, and I still have some publications, but I sold my first publication. And now I have a startup called Outvoice, which helps publications pay their freelance content creators with the same click of a button that publishes the work. So instead of all that annoying emailing back and forth about W-9s and headaches and invoices, as soon as you hit publish, the money starts to move. So I've been very interested in making things easier for publishers, and that's why I'm the head of publishing relationships at COIL, is because I think it's the best way.
That's great. And I think the idea of always having an iron in the fire is one that resonates with anyone looking to start their own small business or interested in this space. Moving over to Yana, you are the director of product at RippleX. And I think most people have heard of Ripple, but maybe you could describe a little bit about what Ripple does and how RippleX specifically plays into the company's mission.
Yeah, definitely. So if you look at Ripple as a company, it is enterprise blockchain company that provides solutions for financial institutions, payment companies to use blockchain and digital assets for cross-border payments as well as for lending. So with Ripple Enterprise Solutions, it's easier for payment companies and financial institutions to facilitate cross-border payments and to reliably and cheaply settle funds between different markets. If Ripple is focused more on enterprise, Ripple as a company first started in an enterprise use case. RippleX is a new business unit that is focused more on developer initiative. And our developer initiative aimed at providing tools, services, libraries, SDKs, so that it's easier for developers to start building an XRP ledger and use XRP within their applications, as well as for new use cases. So if you can imagine, there could be a group of people that want to build an application or build their new way to do something on XRP ledger. Our tools make it easier for them to start, so that the whole process, development process, implementation process is not going to take a long time. And instead, they can release their app and start getting it to the users and potentially monetizing it if that's also part of their business plan. We do on RippleX, we actually do regularly partner with developer community around XRP, and XRP is a digital asset within XRP ledger. And we always partner with developers to ensure that we implement new features and improvements to XRP ledger. What we try to do is we try to stay one of the players within the community of companies and developers building on top of XRP and XRP ledger, because after all, XRP ledger is open source and XRP is a decentralized digital asset within the ledger. But yeah, it's very exciting time for us, because now that we are going not only enterprise use cases, but also more smaller open source use cases as well.
Which leads right into my next question. We, internally we talk about RippleX as being the open platform of money. Yeah. And given that, maybe if you could explain a little bit about what that means, and also describe the sorts of use cases that you're seeing in your role and what is being developed right now.
Yeah, definitely. So say open platform for money, that means we want anyone who wants to say build some kind of application that uses digital assets or cryptocurrency or blockchain technology. We do want them to come to XRP Ledger and use XRP Ledger for any use case that they want to build against. And again, we do ensure that we provide all the possible tools and technologies that anyone would need to use XRP Ledger for different use cases. Again, there are so many different use cases now that can be done within crypto. One, particularly the ones that we've seen developed the most recently, is around payments. and tokenization. So if we look at payments, one particular interesting one is in-app purchases. So for example, we have one of the partners, which is Forte, and it's a platform for game developers. So Forte actually provides game developers with the tools to build on top of XRP Ledger, and also to use XRP to charge users within the game. So imagine if you're a small game developer, you publish your game, and you get traction. The way you can monetize that game is that not only by charging users to play, but also by providing different products within the game economy. Like maybe if you're building something, you can have like special house you can buy, which is not available to everyone within the game. Or if it's weapon-based game, you can buy a special weapon that can be used to advance faster. So if we think about paying for this type of goods within virtual game economy, using fiat currency it's not optimized for that use case. And it's actually cryptocurrencies, digital assets that are very much optimized for in-game or in-app purchases, because those purchases are usually need to be real-time, and those purchases need to be, they're usually low value. So as Matt was saying, if you are paying $20 for, say, some kind of a fancy thing within your game, usually if you use fiat currency, it will cost you another $10 to get that fiat into the game, versus if you use cryptocurrencies, for example, XRP, which is XRP Ledger digital asset, that can be a fraction of the penny would cost you. And also the other kind of benefit is that it's also real time. So because digital assets that are real time, it also fits very well with in-app purchases. The other use case that's interesting is tokenization, and one specifically we started to look into is central bank digital currencies. And again, the focus there is for us to provide private version of our ledger, which then can be used by central banks to issue and manage digital currency. So as you imagine, central banks can issue, say, digital dollar or digital euro on a blockchain. Then retail users, consumer users, or business users can then settle between themselves using this digital currency in real time. So you don't have to wait for your payment to settle within a day or multiple days. It can be done in real time, which benefits a lot of industry, including a lot of small businesses, where small businesses don't have access to working capital. The faster they get paid from their merchants or from their customers, the better for small business. So this is the other use case that's very interesting to us, and that's we've been focusing for the last few months.
Yeah, that could be life. That could be life or death for some small businesses.
Exactly.
My business has been in a position when we first started, and we had $800 of no outside funding. There was times where an advertising partner telling us, "Hey, don't worry about it. It'll be there in 45 days." Well, I'm absolutely worrying about it, right? Because that puts me in a significant cash crunch. Digital assets, the XRP ledger, all these things are instantaneous. And with Coil and web monetization, it truly did feel like magic the first time I saw an email pop up letting me know that a Coil user had come to my site and they had looked at some content and the value was already given to me. So I'm not waiting for someone in the advertising industry to do some kind of sketchy math behind a closed door and tell me what my cut is and then wait 30, 60, 90 days. I've already been paid for my content. That's extremely exciting as a small business person and as a publisher in particular.
No, absolutely. And I think both of you are hitting on a point. CBDCs are very much still under examination by countries around the world. And one of the policy issues that is being examined is how can it help retail businesses, and the benefits that you're pointing out, I think, are very much on the minds of policymakers, both within the United States and abroad, as they think about what are the benefits of digital currency, programmable money, and how do we get those benefits into the hands of consumers? And I think Yana and Matt, you both touched upon, one very real life aspect and what it means to you as a business owner, Matt in particular, to have that functionality. Yana, do you have what are your overall goals? What would you like to see have happen at Ripple X this year by the end of the year?
Yeah, so definitely. So our overall goal in general is to attract as many developers to build an XRP ledger for many different use cases. And the reason for that is that as we have a lot of applications built on top of XRP ledger and using XRP, that increases liquidity around the ledger and kind of fosters the whole ecosystem around for developers. So for this particular year, we're actually focusing on tokenization use case and specifically on NFTs. So we're adding support to the ledger for non-fungible tokens. And you probably heard about this use case exploding recently, mostly with content creators in terms of art, songs. However, what we think is that there is broader potential for the use case where NFTs could be used to tokenize real estate, property, certain rights, certain permits that even small businesses might have. So we do see application of this use case going much further than what we're seeing right now. And what we want to do within this year is to ensure that XRP Ledger is actually the go-to blockchain for NFT use case, because we do believe that NFTs would lead to more token-based use cases, and that's exactly where we want XRP Ledger to play within the industry. Again, developers are super excited about NFTs, and that's why we do want to kind of attract as many developers as possible and ensure that we have native support in XRP Ledger so that the developers have good experience around building NFT applications, and we get more and more of them to come and build on top.
Creating their small businesses. For the audience, could you give the 1-minute explainer on what an NFT is?
Yeah, definitely. So NFT is a non-fungible token, which means it cannot be divided. So if we think about, for example, 1 Bitcoin or 1 XRP, you can divide it. You can send 0.1 Bitcoin to Susan, and then you'll have another 0.1 Bitcoin in your wallet remaining, and maybe even more. With NFT, you cannot divide the token. So, for example, if you have a unique ownership, for example, you own a house and you have the kind of the title to the house. Technically, that title the house cannot be divided. That house cannot be. I cannot send this house to somebody and have another house like that. So, NFT is actually tokenizing this unique ownership, and then that ownership can be tracked on a blockchain. It can also be traded. So, for example, when you sell your house, you don't need to do transaction in physical world. You can do it via blockchain and crypto, and then can pass the property right to another person. So this is a way to tokenize kind of unique property that you might have. And we do believe that this is, in the future, there's a way bigger application for this use case, compared to what we are seeing right now.
I'm excited to hear that you're working on that, because the content creators are flocking to that as a new way to monetize audiences. But the biggest pushback that they get is that it's not environmentally friendly because of some of the proof of work blockchains that are out there. But if they were on the XRP ledger, the content creators would be able to create NFTs and not get any of that pushback, which would unlock a bunch of potential revenue for them and small businesses. I'm very excited about that because I would like to make some NFTs, but I would not like to face the Twitter storm of people telling me that they are environmentally unfriendly. So can't wait for you to release those.
Yeah, definitely. And again, NFT use case kind of draws on benefits of XRP Ledger, the performance, low transaction costs, and also energy sustainability, where XRP Ledger does not require mining. It's a consensus based and it's negligible compared to other cryptocurrencies.
We are approaching the end of our session, so I just wanted to see, before we introduce the next speaker, if both of you could give just your thoughts on what you would like to see. I think, what would you like to see crypto assets used for with respect to small business? What do you see as the future in terms of small business and how crypto assets can transform that that landscape? Where would you like to see things? And what, if you'd like to speak to this, what do you see as the best way to get there?
So sure, maybe I'll go first. The things that I'm most interested in are content creators being able to monetize their audiences. And then I'm most interested in helping publishers pay their content creators. And I think digital assets can help both of those problems immensely. So directly sending payment from a vast audience to a publication, and then having that publication send payments to freelance content creators. I'm interested in all of that and how digital assets might be able to help. Best way to get there, probably a little bit more clarity, a little bit more education, and letting people know that digital assets are not just some weird speculative Dogecoin thing that they heard about on CNBC, but that they can be used for real businesses like mine.
I completely agree. I think payments is a great use case where crypto and digital assets already provide a lot of benefits. I think the other use case is decentralized finance or products around DeFi, where I do believe that in the future, these type of products can provide greater access for small businesses to borrow money, which would then help them to grow and expand. I do think that right now, for example, when a small business have to get a loan, they have to go to their bank, and then it's pretty much bank officer has to judges them on do they think they are worth to receive a loan and if they can get paid. In the future, I do think small businesses can have access to broader ecosystem of financial and lending products, and they don't have to kind of rely on a bank judgment in terms of them borrowing money. I do think we need to have clear regulation or rules in place for this industry to grow, because I feel like a lot of countries right now very much advancing in terms of having a regulatory framework around crypto assets and around blockchain. And US is a little bit lagging behind because it's still unclear what you can or cannot do. And it's definitely kind of slows down the innovation around this space and almost kind of moves innovation to overseas.
I thank you both, Yana and Matt, for those excellent comments and for your perspectives on how digital assets can transform small business. I think it was just so helpful to hear about what you are both working on and your experiences. And I know that many of the policymakers who are joining today's conference are precisely focused on the problem that you have flagged about regulatory clarity. Including our next speaker. I am pleased to introduce U.S. Senator Jackie Rosen, who previously served in the House of Representatives and represents Nevada. She sits on the Senate Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation and Senate Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship. Prior to serving in Congress, Senator Rosen started her career as a computer programmer and software developer, so she understands the importance of emerging technologies, and we appreciate her support. Welcome, Senator.
Hi, I'm Senator Jackie Rosen, and I'm proud to represent the great state of Nevada in the United States Senate. I want to thank the National Policy Network of Women of Color in Blockchain for hosting today's event, for recognizing the importance of our nation's small businesses, and shining a spotlight on our nation's diverse micro enterprises and blockchain companies. They are fueling job creation in our innovation economy. Small businesses are the engine that power my state's communities. In fact, small businesses make up over 99% of all businesses in Nevada, and they employ just a third of the workforce in our state's private workforce. But during the pandemic, small businesses across the nation have faced hard times and an economic crisis. As we work to overcome this pandemic, it's critical that we take steps to help minority-owned small businesses, the most severely impacted by COVID, and prepare for the future of business, our economy, and our country. The work of the National Policy Network of Women of Color in Blockchain is helping to ensure that cutting-edge technologies like blockchain are available to all. You're helping to build a more inclusive country for all Americans, including at the intersection of finance and technology, a growing, forward-thinking area that can lead to success today and in the future. In the Senate, I've been working to make sure that our small businesses in Nevada and all over our country are able to access the resources they may need to get through this challenging time and begin to grow and thrive in the near future. I'm also working to provide our children, all of our children, greater access to education that promotes an understanding of science and technology. Without a doubt, entrepreneurs and innovative micro enterprises like blockchain companies have been playing an important role in the innovation of our economy. Over the last few years, they've become an integral part of America's small business landscape. And as we work to recover from the effects of COVID-19, they are vital to strengthening our nation's economy, workforce, and technological competitiveness around the world. That's why it's so important to ensure our next generation entrepreneurs, small business owners, and workforce are equipped with the skills needed to succeed in the economy of the future. Last Congress, I co-sponsored the 21st Century STEM for Girls and Underrepresented Minorities Act because we know that access to STEM education gives our students, especially those from minority and underrepresented backgrounds, opportunities to understand the developing technologies of the 21st century and succeed in the careers of the future. Together, I know we can create a tech sector that not only thrives, but is open, accessible, and equitable to all who want to take part. Thank you and enjoy today's forum.
Thank you, Senator. We have a lot of champions in Congress, but it's great to have a senator like you who understands, technology, was a computer developer, and knows the importance of, the innovation economy. Now I'm thrilled to introduce Rick Wade, who is the Senior Vice President of Strategic Alliances and Outreach at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Rick develops and implements programs and initiatives to help the Chamber create new business relationships and partnerships across diverse audiences. And he provides counsel on policy issues and leads special projects. Rick is leading the Chamber's historic Equality of Opportunity initiative aimed to develop sustainable policy and business solutions to help close race-based opportunity gaps in education, employment, entrepreneurship, criminal justice, health, and wealth. And he is a fellow Obama presidential appointee. So it's always great to see so many former Obama folks doing great things in technology, but in blockchain. You may know that the Chamber in January released a report on digital assets, which was very, very thoughtful on how the US can maintain competitiveness. Thank you, Rick. Welcome.
Cliff, first of all, let me say it's great to see you again. I enjoyed obviously working with you in our days at the United States Department of Commerce. And thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this very, very important conversation as we think about digital assets, blockchain transforming small businesses and entrepreneurship. And I'm thrilled to kind of follow on Senator Rosen, who's absolutely right. The important role that micro enterprises and blockchain companies are playing, not just now, but as we think about the economy, not just in the United States of the future, but around the world. The United States Chamber of Commerce, the world's largest business organization, representing businesses of all sectors, sizes, and regions, and representing the interests of U.S. companies around the world. It's not lost on us, the very important role that small businesses play in our economy. And the senator is absolutely right. As I lead work around what we call our equality of opportunity agenda, which is really focused on two verticals. One, what are the policies that we need to be advancing to create more equality of opportunity? And what should the private sector be doing, independent of policy, to help close the gap that exists in the world of education and unemployment, and even in the area of entrepreneurship? One of the most alarming things that we found is we think about the disproportionate impact of the pandemic on America's small businesses was even a more disproportionate impact on minority enterprises. In the survey that we did with our partner company MetLife, we found that 66% of all minority businesses in America were concerned about permanently closing. Some research has shown that 41% of Black-owned companies have already closed. And so we have to solve for this, yes, for the short term. And the U.S. Chamber has been front and center, making sure that PPP funding flows to small companies across our country, and making sure that as we now take on very, very difficult challenges around issues like access to capital, that it's just not lending, but it's venture capital. How do we unleash capital so that small and minority-owned businesses across the country can not only grow, but they can create jobs and prosper? We're leading efforts around connecting more Black and minority businesses to corporate supply chains. Supplier diversity is a big priority for us. And also thinking about how do we connect and create infrastructures to connect minority companies and more small businesses to the 95% of the consumers who live outside of the United States borders. And the senator was right. How do we even think about inspiring the next generation of innovators and entrepreneurs? And we've launched an exciting partnership with historically Black colleges and universities to focus on developing particularly minority innovators and entrepreneurs across the country. But here's the deal with all of that and the opportunities and challenges that we have. The digitalization of assets has the potential, the tremendous potential to revolutionize how goods and services are offered and how they're bought and how they're sold and how they're valued. And that transfer for generations to come is extremely important. What we do know, and as you referenced earlier, that the current sort of piecemeal approach to digital asset regulation holds back innovation, holds back progress, and we got to modernize that so that these technologies are able to thrive, not just here in the United States, but they benefit consumers and companies around the world, and they benefit consumers and our broader economy. And that framework that you mentioned that came from our capital markets competitiveness, I hope all of you will take a look at it. Digital assets, a framework for regulation to maintain the United States as an innovation leader, and where we make tremendous recommendations to build a framework around digital assets. And let me close by saying, given this rapid pace which digital asset innovation is developing and being applied, especially over the past year during the time of this pandemic, it's extremely important that we lean in and lead in this space towards digitalization, because the stakes are extremely high as if we fall behind. The United States has always been a global innovator and a global leader in innovation, but if we don't get it right now, we may lose our competitive edge and our competitive advantage. We talk often about the future of work. We have to put the same focus on the future of money and think about this important aspect of our economy. I believe at the end of the day that digital assets, the possibility there are just absolutely endless. And I commit the U.S. Chamber, I commit myself to continue to work with you and your colleagues to explore these unlimited possibilities together. Thank you so much again for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Rick. We really appreciate your leadership at the Chamber and also your leadership globally as well. These issues are important, and the work that the Chamber is doing will actually have an impact. I encourage people to take a look at the report. Now we're going to shift a little bit to our final fireside chat. I am very, very, very excited for this conversation. Sonia John just joined Filecoin Foundation. It's actually her first day, and I'm thrilled to have her on. She is a blockchain developer, a writer, and speaker. She's very passionate about distributed and decentralized systems. Sonia, congratulations on your new role. Tell us a bit about what you'll be doing before we hear about your story.
Thank you. And, thank you so much for having me. And, I am excited on taking developer advocacy at the Filecoin Foundation, which is an independent organization that's, working towards facilitating the governance of the Filecoin network, funding critical development projects, And it's one of the many organizations that supports the growth of the Falcon ecosystem. And it advocates for the decentralization of the web, which is something I will be doing a lot of. And, it's exciting because I'll be working with thousands of developers, miners, programs, and different ecosystem stakeholders, to ensure Falcon's long-term success.
Well, that sounds very exciting, but let's talk about how you became a developer. You had a non-traditional path. Tell us about your journey.
I think it's only non-traditional in the sense that learning to code for me was perhaps born out of sheer desperation at the time. But my interest in technology was long-standing even before I made the transition. So I had the opportunity to work in telecommunications, and when I was there, I was drawn to information technology, specifically data science fundamentals, for data intelligence and how they could be used to drive certain solution delivery. So when I started to learn to code, I started with HTML and CSS like most people. But it wasn't until I learned Python and kind of started to test out, my builds that I kind of experimented with machine learning by, starting off with building messenger bots for platforms like Telegram.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. It was your passion that drove you. While we say it's non-traditional, but for most people, it is that passion. And then that that bridge. Now, it's no secret that tech has a diversity problem, right? Inclusion is an issue that we're working on, we're moving forward. What is it like being a female developer?
Oh, well, I mean, if anyone is anything like me, I think one of the challenges that they will definitely have to contend with is continuously exposing themselves to very, or at least highly technical roles without a prior study of computer science. And for me, trying to reconcile that difference was often accompanied by moments of low confidence. And any developer can be exposed to such moments, but it took realizing that the help that I needed was available in the communities that I was in. So I try to read more than I write, I ask questions, I test my theories. And I think ultimately this approach will work for anyone who's joining the Web3 space or pretty much getting started with their developer journey.
I love that advice. Read more than you write and ask questions. So you're definitely on a journey. Now, I just asked you about being a female developer. Falcon Foundation is also unique in the blockchain space, right? It's led by women.
Absolutely, and it's actually it's interesting to see that the tech space has done so much to kind of maybe lower the barriers to entry for a lot of people within the space. So a lot of the resources that you would need to kind of get started with your developer journey are pretty much easily available, and the growth of open source software, is a key component to that because anyone anywhere can have access to the technologies that are being built using this open source software, and it's become almost game changing in the technology landscape.
Wow. Well, you mentioned your journey, your passion about tech, but what brought you to blockchain? What was that intersection for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, so first thing is, although I am in Kenya, I am from South Sudan, which is one of the few countries that has experienced hyperinflation in the last 10 to 15 years. And, for better or for worse, I was living and working there when this happened. So when I was introduced to Bitcoin and Ethereum as alternative currencies that could have solved some of the problems that I was facing, it was an intriguing promise. So I stayed learning about these networks. I learned about the underlying technology that powers them and the applicable use cases that it holds. So it's the power that's, it's the technology that's powering the Falcon network. It's ensuring that it remains a peer-to-peer network with built-in incentives for reliable, efficient, and decentralized storage. And I found that this was something that I wanted to contribute to because, it has an underlying mission to better humanity's, to better keep humanity's information.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the idea.
And that's powerful. And you make a great point about, inflation and economies that are, economically challenged, because what we've seen adoption in blockchain across the world is where there is high inflation, right? People don't necessarily trust the state or the central bank. And so the solutions are the focus, right? There's less questions on the how, there's more questions on how do we implement solutions.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's not coincidental that Africa is seeing the biggest growth in Bitcoin volumes currently, because I think, again, for better or for worse, we experience a lot of the economic challenges that make it necessary for us to to use Bitcoin, and that's just proof that it's working as it was designed.
Proof that it's working as it was designed. And I love that, because I'm a big decentralization nut. And so in terms of, empowering communities that were left out of the traditional financial system. So it's great to see, where this is actually happening.
Absolutely.
Now, you have a great story, obviously, and there's people in the audience, women, innovators of color, who may want to become a blockchain developer. And as we talked from the beginning, your story is traditional or non-traditional, depending on your vantage point. But what would be your advice for anyone in our audience who wants to learn how to code, become a developer, but become a blockchain developer?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a good question, because we need a lot of developers in this space. So generally, knowing where to get the information you need is a great first step. And usually this is in your community. So for example, to get started with Filecode, we have different resources available through documentation, videos, discussion forums, meetups, as easy ways to learn how Filecode works and how you can participate. So if you identify, a technologies that you're passionate about, that is the easiest way to get started. But I've also taken to recommending Bitcoin and Black America, which is a great book by Isaiah Jackson, and it presents multiple tools that individuals can use to, attain future success using Bitcoin and blockchain technology. So it's a great place to start to kind of learn why we're all very excited about this technology. And I think finally, look out for the resources that cover that intersection of emerging technology and blockchain technology, So podcasts like Rare Birds, for example, which is one of my favorites in that space.
Great resources, great tools. Now, as we wrap up, I know it's your first day. So what will your first full week be like at Filecoin Foundation?
I think it'll be great. I mean, I had the opportunity to meet the team over very many long form conversations, and during those conversations, we were able to kind of try to figure out how we can really, advocate for the decentralization of the web and advocate for Filecoin. So it's definitely going to be exciting. We're going to have a lot of those conversations, get to hear from the developers themselves, get to hear from pretty much any stakeholder in the ecosystem, and just kind of pull all those recommendations together to really push our mission forward.
Great. Now, Filecoin Foundation is a part of Blockchain Association, and the Blockchain Association, represents about 40 companies, and there's a lot of hiring happening within the, blockchain community. I know the Blockchain Association has a site, careers in blockchain.us that they can go to that actually has jobs from all of the different positions. So, well, from the different companies, I should say. Now, for people in our audience, it's important for them to know that for you, Sonia, you came to the table as a developer, but that there are various opportunities, in operations, in accounting, for soft skills and tech skills, non-technical positions. So we do, as we close, I do want to tell folks to be excited about your new role, but let people in our audience know there are lots of job opportunities within the blockchain and cryptocurrency space.
Absolutely, and we are also hiring at Falcon Foundation. So, if you have skills, if you have ideas that you can, bring to the team, you can, share them at jobs@phil.org, and someone will reach out.
Well, thank you. Any last parting words before we wrap up?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I definitely enjoy conversations like this. I love that we can come together and kind of pull our ideas together. So again, thank you for having me, and I look forward to, I don't know, shots maybe. It's almost time. Let's see.
Yes, well, there's more to come. We definitely, for National Policy Network of Women of Color, we focus on inclusion and diversity. And I want to, wrap up by thanking our sponsors, Blockchain Association, Ripple, CoinList, for being such champions of inclusion and for being focused on building a vibrant and inclusive crypto economy. Now it's Cinco de Mayo, so if you RSVP'd, you received a special recipe for a margarita. So get your margarita ready. We're going to wrap up with a little social just to commemorate Cinco de Mayo. I wish we could do it in person, but thank everyone for joining us, for participating.